It's the 29th of June, and this is your Monday Microdose. Man, the 29th of June already. What? This year. So I got a couple things to cover today, and I have to try to, well, I'm hoping that I can get them all out in some sort of organized order. The bike apocalypse of 2020 continues. I have never in my life seen anything like it, and I've been in the bike business since 1988. It is crazy. There are no bikes to be had. We're going to probably see some bikes in the latter part of July, and then maybe again in August, and then there may be a handful of months where there's just no product. It's it's just kind of crazy. But speaking of new bikes, you may have seen a couple of days ago the new disc trucker. And you may also not be surprised to know that I have some thoughts. So first I want to say that I love Surly. If I would be completely happy to run my little bike shop with nothing but Surly bikes, because I think that they provide the most value to the end user, and they're also just, to a model, great riding bikes. However, that doesn't, at the end of the day, what this just means is that Daddy doesn't like change. That's just what it means. And for the sake of this conversation, I would be Daddy. So if you haven't seen the bike, it looks a little something like this. And if you're just listening, you can go to surlybikes.com. It's right there on the front page. So the first thing that jumped out at me when I saw this was they added at least 20 millimeters to the head tube length. Good. I'm not mad about that one bit. What that means is that you are going to be able to get the handlebars up nice and high without using 75 spacers under the stem. Perfect. Love it. They slope the top tube. Not crazy. I mean, I understand why they did it. Add some standover clearance, makes the bikes fit perhaps a wider range of people. Aesthetically, I was happy. I liked the fact that the trucker was one of the last bikes with a horizontal top tube. They shortened the chain stays, but yet, and I'm using my size, which is a 54 centimeter frame. I'm using my size as a reference for this. Your results may vary. They shortened the chain stays, but yet the wheelbase is near as makes no difference unchanged. So I should also add to this that it's going to seem like I'm taking a big dump on this bike. I'm not. And quite honestly, in a couple of months, I'm going to get one and I'm going to ride it. I'm going to probably have to come back here and recant everything or most of what I've said. So as long as we all understand each other. Flat mount disc brakes. Meh. Okay. And here's where it gets a little wibbly. Through axles. But because it's Surly, not through axles. Question mark? So it's captured on one end, and then the other end is slotted so you can pull the wheel out without pulling the through axle completely out. Okay. the kind of sales pitch says that it, makes the bikes a little stiffer, especially under load. I don't know. Maybe that's something that was needed. I have a feeling that it's more to the fact that a lot of other companies are doing this and now consumers expect it. And maybe it'll work out. I'm sure it'll be fine. My overall complaints are, I'm going to tell you right after I tell you, the thing that I'm most disappointed about. Can you guess it? Are you talking at your screens right now? STI levers. Heresy. Heresy, I say. Sorry. I'm sure this is one of those things where a lot of you out there are saying, what's the problem? I love STI levers. Great. I'm sure that I am in the minority here. But historically, what I have found is that STI levers, if not used consistently, tend to go to shite. Whatever grease they use in those things hardens to a shellac-like consistency. The pawls don't engage. And then you or your local bike mechanic are playing hell trying to get the things freed up again. Now, I would hope that you ride your bike all the time. But the reality is we all don't ride our bikes all the time. See last week's video. And if you have multiple bikes, sometimes, I would get on a thing and, just one bike got ridden all the time and the other 1 or 2 or 5 end up, kind of unused. The other thing that I question is that one of the most attractive things about Surly is that it is very easy to hashtag Surly make it your own. And my gut tells me that through axles are going to make that more difficult. Maybe through axle wheel sets are more prevalent than I think they are. Maybe there's going to be some kind of dark wizardry that allows you to run a non-through axle hub in that bike, but I can't imagine, I don't see how that's going to work. And I've done many bar swaps on long haul truckers for myself, for customers. And because that bike had bar and shifters, it was very simple to do. I mean, very simple is a relative thing, but it was simple to do. It has certainly become a lot more difficult with STI levers. And I guess not so much more difficult, but it's just going to be more expensive. If you want to add a North Road bar or a Moloko bar, now you have to, I guess you would have had to buy brake levers anyway, but you got to, you're starting from scratch with the shifters. I don't know. Like I said, I'm going to probably get one of these in a couple of months, ride it, and I'm going to still be upset about the STI levers, but the rest of it I'm going to be okay with. But yeah, what are your thoughts? I'm not even mad about the color, quite honestly. I don't get that upset about color anyway, but the trucker has had a pretty modest color palette over the last, forever. It's also a bike that really hasn't changed in like 20 years or more. So again, the older I get, the less I like change. And I don't count putting disc brakes on the bike because it was essentially the same bike just with disc brakes. So what are your thoughts? Have you seen it? Are you excited about it? I really didn't know it was coming. I mean, so I kind of found out about it basically at the same time that y'all did. Yeah. Truck stop bar. They put a truck stop bar on it, which, fine. Great. And in the bigger sizes, you get a little bit wider handlebar, which I think is good. Overall, I'm sure it's going to be a good thing, and I'm sure it's going to ride great. I'm just, I'm old. All right. How about a little
sensible yet adventurous?
I've done exactly one bike race in my entire life. I don't count adventure racing, and I haven't done much of that either, but I've done exactly one legit bike race in my life, and it was a cyclocross race. And it was a long time ago now. I think it was 2001, although that's been so long ago that I can't really remember. And I was working at a shop, and most mornings we did an urban ride, which was quite spirited. And if you were not initiated or in shape, quite hard. I mean, it was even quite hard even when you were in shape. And cyclocross had started to become popular. It was not nearly at the level that it is now. It, continued to grow from there. But there was a little series here in town, and I bought a cross-check frame, and I built a cyclocross bike. And so I looked at the race schedule, and I did one race, and it was in January, so it was quite cold. And I was going to do the Citizens Race. So if you don't know, your Citizens Races, and I think maybe like 3s, 4s, and 5s are 30 minutes plus one lap. 1s, 2s, and Masters were 45 minutes plus a lap. So I thought, well, because I am
sensible yet adventurous,
30 minutes is plenty. So I get there early, and I run into a guy that I know who was a rep in town, and he says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing the Citizens Race. And he said, how old are you? And I was 35 or 36 at the time, and he goes, you ought to do the Masters division. And I was like, man, that's like an extra 15 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but, he said, look, he goes, you're going to have to wait until we're done. He said, that soccer field out there that we have to ride through, the sun's going to be well up by then. It's going to be warmer, and that soccer field is going to be a mess. He said, just go tell Jeff, who was the race organizer, just tell him you want to switch classes, and he'll let you do it. So it didn't take much arm twisting, to be honest, and I went in there and I switched classes. So I would go with the first group. And also what I found out were there were exactly 4 of us now. I was the 4th doing the Masters race. Okay. So there was this guy that I knew that talked me into changing classes. There was another guy that I knew. And there was a guy in, I'm pretty sure, jeans and a parka. The jeans part of it, I'm pretty sure about. He was definitely wearing a parka. So gun goes off and we take off. And, it's difficult. I've jokingly always answered the question, what's a cyclocross race like? And my answer has always been, take a roll of quarters and put them in a pillowcase. And then give that pillowcase to your closest friend and have them beat you with that for 45 minutes plus one lap. And so we're going around and around and around and around. And the way these races work is that when the bell rings, then you do one more lap. So if the bell rings right before you get to the start-finish line, you do one more lap. If the bell rings right after you get to the finish line, you go around and then you do one more lap. I think that's how it works. But as the race progressed, every time I got, within, say, 100 meters of the start-finish line, I would start slowing down and praying for the bell to ring. I will tell you at this point that I got lapped more times than I can count, but I lapped Park a guy. So I'm slowing down and I'm praying for the bell to ring. Please ring, please ring. And I'd get across the finish line and I'd be like, damn it. And at one point, as I'm going through the start-finish line, Jeff, the race organizer, says, man, you're in third place in the Masters division. Way to go. And as I sat up and spun around and said, there's only 4 of us. So eventually the bell rang. I did one more lap. I finished the race. It was like, okay, one and done. I, check it off the list. Jeff sees me and he says, well, stick around because you're in the money. And I was like, excuse me? And he said, yeah. He goes, you're third place in the Masters division. You're in the money. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Okay, well, all right. So we go into the little office at the velodrome, which is where the race was held. And there are these boxes of swag product, basically, that the first guy in the story had donated, at least in large part, because he was the Cannondale rep and he donated a bunch of product. And so they're like, anything out of that box is yours. And, oh, by the way, here you go. And he hands me this medal. And I was like, what in the world is this for? And he said, you didn't know? And I said, no, what? Well, this is the Indiana-Kentucky Division District Championships. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I said, this is the first bike race I've ever done. And at that point, like 3 people that were in the line said, what? And I said, yeah, this is the first bike. So your first race, you podiumed, finger quotes, podiumed in your first race. And I said, yeah. And you know what? I'm also would like to take this opportunity to announce my retirement. So there you have it. That is the story of my one and only bike race. I still have the medal. A friend of mine put it in a little box, framed box. Crazy stuff. I hope you're all doing well. If you liked the video and you haven't subscribed, why don't you go ahead and clack that subscribe button. It does help a lot. Click the thumbs up. Share it with a friend. Those are absolutely free and easy ways to support me and my little weekly missives. Yeah, that's it. Until next time, be nice, work hard, ride bikes, play music when you can. I'll talk to you soon.